Hi guys, welcome back to the Game of Muscle YouTube channel. In this video we're jumping back into Project Cars 2, back into virtual reality with the Oculus Rift, and we're going to do some more drifting, this time in the Caterham Cup Car, which is one of my favourite vehicles in the world. I think if I ever win the lottery or happen to make substantially more money, this is the car I'd go for. It's road legal and it's also bloody fun. Not driven one in real life, but, you know, from my experience in simulators. And I mean, just look at it. It's a proper car. None of that modern nonsense. Just a proper vehicle. So, we're going to try and do some drifting here. We'll give it a go. The drifting in my previous video was absolutely atrocious. So, we'll see if we can better it with this Caterham. Now, you might notice that I'm using the flappity paddles instead of the shift knob, or the shift knob's on the right here. That's because I've actually bound the shift knob to be a handbrake. I need to set up a joystick ideally to be the handbrake, so I then got my H pattern to get the full manual experience. But for now we've just got this in sequential mode, the SHH shifter in sequential mode, which should allow us to just have a handbrake. But look at that, straight on the limiter in second gear, throttle on, back end popping out, absolutely fantastic. I mean, the Caterham as a car, just sublime. I do love this vehicle. I love it in all the simulators. Really good mod version of Assetto Corsa. There was a really good version in R Factor, and you know, it's a car that just goes where you point it, and you can enjoy the sunshine that doesn't actually exist in the United Kingdom whilst you drive it. Now, for those of you wondering, I'm driving using the direct drive wheel, which is basically a really high-end servo wheel for those of you that don't know, and this basically stays totally in tune with the simulator and makes drifting even easier. So those of you that aren't particularly good at drifting, that are using consumer wheels, don't worry, it might not actually be you, it might be your force feedback steering wheel. Regardless, let's actually try and hook some drifts up, and I won't be able to use the excuses given that this wheel is pretty bloody fantastic. It just does all the work for you. You'll see it snapping around. Oh, okay, we're getting the back end out, we're holding it, but we're not being neat and tidy. That is the crux of drifting. I think what you find in driving games and driving simulators that do a good job of drifting is that, you know, you can pop the back end out and you can generally control it reasonably well, assuming you've got good reactions and a basic understanding of the physics and handling or how to drift. But what's hard is actually doing it in a tidy way and maximising the track, using the full extent of the corners, and then getting ludicrous angles. And that's where my drifting abilities lack somewhat. My excuse: most driving simulators historically have done a bad job of drifting. I mean, basically it's just Live for Speed and Assetto Corsa and a couple of mod cars in R Factor 1 and R Factor 2 with ridiculous setups where you can do drifting properly. But yeah, Live for Speed and Assetto Corsa, really, it's about it. And now, thankfully, actually, R Factor 2, Project Cars 2, I think actually does a pretty good job of the drifting. Oh, the car's bogging down with fifth gear. I might not actually need to use the handbrake, you know. The car's popping out on the accelerator, and I've got the brake bias set up so that the can't really do it on the fly. No, you can't do it on the fly, but the brake bias is set up so it's fairly far back, so just putting on the brake is popping the back out a bit. So yeah, we don't need the handbrake. Let's oh, I don't even need to do anything. Just need to flip a switch, rotate the shifter. Ta-da! We've now got a magical H pattern. The SHH shifter is fantastic for that. It's one of the reasons why I use the SHH shifter. It doesn't feel quite as nice as the TH8A Thrustmaster shifter, but when it comes to being lazy and switching from sequential to H pattern mode. Absolutely fantastic. What am I doing? Come on, right. Let's focus. You guys have had a good demonstration of how the handling is in Project Cars 2 when done badly. Let's try and actually neaten this up. What? It's sticking. Oh! Come on. Oh, not too bad. And actually, one of the things with the Caterham in reality is it actually has quite a small steering wheel. I think the real car has a 270mm steering wheel on it, which is even smaller than what I'm using here. I'm using a 300mm wheel. Most actually your driving steering wheels, like the Thrustmaster T300, I think is a 270mm wheel. So coincidentally, it actually lines up with it better than the wheel I'm using. But what also happens in reality is the Caterham actually has really stiff, quite high torque steering to it. If you ever watch any reviews of the car online, you'll see them struggling to actually move the car around the track at basic level. And thankfully, due to the wonders of direct drive wheels, we've got this set up fairly close to what I think the real wheel would be like in strength. The positive with that is that the car's really concise and corrects itself in a fantastic way. The negative, my little airy-fairy pansy arms struggle at actually getting the most out of it. What am I using? Right, hang on. Let's remember that we're using the H pattern, not the flappies. Oh, oh, we're going to run out of track. We got it, we got it, we got it. It's pretty good. Oh dear. Right, let's try and do something a bit more sexy. Not really attracting the opposite sex so far. Oh! Oh! Dab the brake there. Now, you know, if you're a really good drifter, you'd be able to do those corners and link them up in a really nice way. Oh, put the mass in there. Oh, car lighting up. There we go, there we go. Keep it out, and catch it. And then, other way, go on. Oh, I've got it. Oh, happy birthday. I think that was our first semi-decent link drift there. Oh, oh. Oh, bloody hell, this car's really good fun. So, I think this is a good opportunity to start talking about the Project Cars 2 controversy. Why not? We've waited enough in the video. It'll be the hardcore fans watching this far. There seems to be a lot of arguments over Project Cars 2, specifically over the sort of general realism of it. And because I think a lot of it comes from Project Cars 1 and how Slightly Mad Studios didn't really do themselves any favours with Project Cars 1 in that they were tooting the horn, blowing the trumpet, doing a good job marketing, but the end result, the handling in Project Cars 1 really was a little bit stale in some ways. The way I describe it in Project Cars 1 is that oh! Look at the smoke in the rearview mirrors. The way the car's handled in Project Cars 1 is that you felt like you were driving a bit of a locomotive on rails in some ways. You'd be driving along, car sort of understeers a bit, and you could just kind of do that indefinitely, and it was perfectly comfortable but somewhat boring. But the moment you tried in Project Cars 1 to actually push and really like balance the cars on the limit and really drive on the limit and try and work with the cars to work out its underlying physics to get the most out of the vehicles and get faster lap times and just do subtle driving, the moment you did that in Project Cars 1, it all kind of just fell out the window, and you'd end up with weird unrecoverable rear end of the vehicle, where in many ways it was actually better to just wait for the car to correct itself and come in line than it would be to actually bother counter steering yourself and balancing it. But hopefully, as you can see with Project Cars 2, you know, I am full out driving pretty damn terrible here in terms of angle and full out catching it. Now, I do think this Caterham is one of the better cars in Project Cars 2 at the moment, in this press build, which is obviously, as we've always said, it's not the latest version of the game, and I think it's definitely the case. It's fairly safe to say they've polished up a lot more of the vehicles in the later versions of the game, and not because I've tried it, but because of the cars that are good in this. They are the ones that other people I trust who've got access to the later version of the game have said, yeah, those cars are actually more developed and these ones aren't. So it makes sense. So I have no reason to really doubt that the final version of Project Cars won't necessarily have as fun physics as this Caterham does, but with other vehicles in the game. I mean, that said, this Caterham's bloody fantastic. I love it in all the simulators. You know, as I say, it's maybe I'm a little bit biased with this car. Maybe it titillates me a bit more than it should, but it does what a car in my mind is supposed to do. And actually, at a reasonable price, I think you can pick one up for about £15,000. Maybe not the same spec as this one, but they're not expensive considering the quality of drive you get from them. Probably why you see quite a lot of them on the roads. Actually, people that want a track car but don't have the £30,000 for something like an aerial atom. What? Okay, that's too far. Oh, look at the smoke. Smoke effects and graphics in Project Cars 2, actually. Fantastic. Look at that. Clearing off. And are there any... We don't have any flags or anything to evaluate if the smoke's going in the direction of the wind. But I would have thought it is blowing off the track in the direction that the wind is blowing. Any flags? No, no flags. No way to check the authenticity of the wind. Don't go building a little smoke fire to signal to your Indian friends, because you have no way of knowing if it's actually true and actually will go in the direction of your friends. But yeah, ultimately, I was really sceptical at first with Project Cars 2. Oh, I've got a problem with my shifter here. I need to fix the second gear button. I've had a bit of a disaster with it. Yeah, I was really sceptical with Project Cars 2 and its handling, but having driven some of the cars that are actually fairly decent, it's not really a worry of mine at the moment. And I think most people will be really happy with Project Cars 2. As I said in the previous video, I think people that are totally into their specific simulator of choice, well, I think, you know, they will still predominantly play their simulator of choice. I mean, iRacers aren't going to stop iRacing to start playing Project Cars 2 only, and R-Factor 2 players aren't going to stop playing R-Factor 2, and AC players aren't going to stop playing AC. But, you know, I think most people that are generally fans of realistic driving games will really appreciate at least some of the vehicles in Project Cars 2. And hopefully, I mean, recently SMS did a developer video where they were talking and showing off their some of their multiplayer features, and they've got a ranking system in it where you will be able to create a server and oh dear, it's a big bump. You'll be able to create a server and you'll be able to only let people join that have a certain skill level, which I think will greatly improve the quality of the multiplayer, and the multiplayer in terms of the pickup servers, which you know, for those of us that don't really want to commit to league racing and maybe don't even want to do really serious racing, but we just want to race with a bunch of friends, have something you can set up quickly, have a bunch of interesting content and drive it with interesting conditions, I could see how, you know, I could see if it actually works in Project Cars 2, how that would be something that I could end up personally spending a lot of time with. Oh, I've done it again. There's definitely an angle to this Caterham where it's gone. But round about the 900 degrees of opposite lock to just back off the throttle before getting there. So yeah, the more I play Project Cars 2, actually, the more generally optimistic I have been about it. Not that it's perfect, and this is based off the press build, but you know, The AI, I think, is still, as again, it's something they supposedly have put a lot of work into. I think they've improved the pass from what I've heard. But the AI, from a single player point of view, I'm not completely sold on it, though it's fine. I could see how it'd be really enjoyable to play through, a lot more enjoyable than Project Cars 1 was with the AI. Partly because you don't have to worry about the back of the car coming out and it being uncorrectable if you do get knocked by AI, but also the AI seem, in my version at least, to actually try to avoid you. You know, they don't just careen straight into you, and if they do, it doesn't have as much impact as it did in Project Cars 1, it would seem, from the time that I've spent with the single player. But, you know, for me, I'm all about the multiplayer driving in driving games, even if it's just casual multiplayer with friends. And unfortunately, the press version of Project Cars 2 doesn't have any multiplayer access in it. Because if it did, you know, it'd be really nice to actually. Oh, here we go. It'd be really nice to actually test that out. Things like netcode. And I say that ranking system and how well that actually works, that'd be really interesting. Now, for me, that's probably going to be the crux of how much time I'd end up spending in Project Cars 2 when it finally comes out. Oh, this hill! We're driving this with a BMW when we're doing drifting around this circuit and this hill is a absolute killer. It's quite a steep hill. You can see in virtual reality that the slope on it is a fairly steep slope. In 2D, you'd probably be thinking, oh, why is the car bogging down so much up there? But in VR, it does make sense. And let's do a few more laps of drifting. It's just fun just sliding this car around. On the subject of VR, I kind of said this already in the VR video we did. If you want to check that out on the channel, it's about 4 or 5 videos ago. Well, we can do it this time without losing it. Oh. Just holding it there. Yeah, in the VR... On the VR side of things, that's another aspect of Project Cars 2 that I've been really impressed with, in that not only does it seem to actually work better than Project Cars 1 in VR, and that I'm not getting the motion sickness, I'm not getting the head tracking delay. That's probably terrible for you guys watching the video, sorry. The head tracking is actually, you know, it doesn't feel delayed at all. It's one-to-one with my head movements. It feels very natural. And the VR performance seems to be pretty good for me with the press build that hasn't been optimised fully like the final version will be. So I've been told by Bandai Namco. The Pac-Man, watch out. What I would say though is, you know, I'm running on an i7 with a 6700K. I've actually overclocked my processor more recently to 4.3 gigahertz. I know I've actually overclocked it to 4.4 gigahertz. I know it can go further. But I'm using the motherboard presets, and you know what the voltages are like with presets. Everybody knows what the voltages are like with default overclocks. They're bloody atrocious, and they'll just cook your CPU. But I'm using the default, so we're just sticking at 4.4 gigahertz for now. Getting a little bit of a boost out of it, and I'll probably go a bit further with it when I fiddle with it more. Regardless, i7 6700K, 4.4 gigahertz. GTX 1070, which is also overclocked by a plus 100 on the core and plus 270 on the memory. And with that, I put most of the graphic details in. Well, I'll go over the settings now. Actually, let's get it on the screen. I put the graphic details to. I mean, the interface in this is fantastic. In VR, I'm just using a little wireless controller. If you've got if you're playing this with a you know, like a T300 or Fanatec wheel, you can use the joystick on that. But it's nice and simple to use with arrow keys or just a little floaty mouse. But graphic settings, here we go. Yeah, keep getting distracting myself. This is why I often record audio separate to a video, because my mind is all over the place. Now, okay, we've got virtual reality settings, which is specifically for setting up your seat. You've got a world scale setting there, which is fantastic for those of you that feel like the world scale is off. For those of you that haven't used VR, basically, the world scale affects the separation of the camera, so how 3D things are. It's spot on by default in the game anyway, so you shouldn't need to fiddle with that. But I have noticed it depends on your VR headset. The Rift tends to make things look more chunky than the Vive, so you can fiddle with that if you wanted to, and to get it feeling to your preference. But that's the VR specific settings. It's also got a super sampling setting built into it. I don't think it might not present all the graphic settings whilst we're in the game. You might have to be in the menu. But you see here, what I'm running has got the VSync on, obviously. That's normal with VR because it runs at 90 Hz. We've got the MSAA at medium. That's basically 2 times AA. Post-processing AA is off because post-processing AA makes things look blurred in VR, less crisp, and it's bloody annoying. Super sampling, we've just got a 1.0 here. But in terms of the actual settings, you'll see I've got a lot of them on low because they don't really affect the visual fidelity in VR at a basic level of using the game. So reflections are low, environment map low, car detail medium. You know, you could turn it. I haven't looked at the cars with them in medium and thought, no, this car model looks crappy. The car models are absolutely fantastic in Project Cars 2. The graphics team, I don't think, even with Project Cars 1, nobody could really dispute that when it comes to the car models and the actual graphical program and the effects and stuff, is absolutely amazing in Project Cars 1 and even better in Project Cars 2. I wouldn't say it's... the car models seem a little bit nicer in Project Cars 2, but the overall graphics don't seem that much better or different than Project Cars 1. But Project Cars 1 was so good anyway, you know, it doesn't really make any difference. I guess it's still got to run on a console, so, you know, they have to... They can't go too far with it. We can't have everything... We can't have it completely photoreal, otherwise nobody would be able to play it on the potatoes. So we've got track detail at medium, which is more to do with the sort of track side objects and density. Pit crew player only. I think, you know, for VR, you know, it'd be nice to have all the other pit boxes with shitloads of people in them, but I'm perfectly happy with it, just having our player only box. Shadow detail, got that to low. I think that's one thing that would be nice to put a bit of medium, but, you know, that seems to work fine. Enhanced mirrors off. Motion blur, please, no motion blur. That should only ever be in replays. Don't know why anyone would turn that on. Maybe if you're playing third person and you're going for the cinematic experience. And detailed grass is on medium. You have to have good quality grass. Render frames ahead on 1. I've not really fiddled with that. But so really the graphics are set to medium to low for VR. But in a tangible sense for how the graphics affect the visuals, it's pretty good. I mean, it looks pretty sharp to me in the VR headset, and it runs pretty well. And this, as I say, is with the press build that's not fully optimized. Back to the driving before everyone falls asleep. I think I'll do 2 more laps of drifting before we wrap up this birthday present. We could talk about some other nice, interesting aspects whilst we're here. Why not? Brembo brakes, Monster Energy. Just needs a Dorito advertisement somewhere. Oh, let's link this up a bit. There we go. Oh, thinks we're going to the pits, but we're not. We've fooled the pit crew. They've all come out of the box. They've got the wheels ready, and then we've just bugged it off, and they don't know what's going on. So another aspect of Project Cars 2 that I think is actually really nice, that I haven't noticed that many people talking about it. Sorry, just hit my mic there. Oh yes, I'm getting better at this. Yeah, another aspect of Project Cars 2 is the sound. I think for the most part is really good actually, and maybe not necessarily as good as some of the cars in Race Room, but easily better than the sound in many other simulators, a lot better than the sound in a lot of cars in R Factor 2, and a lot better on average than the sound in Assetto Corsa. One thing you notice with the sound in Project Cars 2 actually, when playing in VR, whoa, oh dear, just sliding around is so much fun. Especially in VR because you can look into the corners. Whoa, they buggered that up. Well, it probably looks like I'm just understeering for you guys watching this in 2D, because as the car slips out and I put the opposite lock on, say we were going around here, and then I look into the corner, the car just looks like it's understeering. I'll try and keep my head looking straight ahead. But yeah, the sound when you're playing in VR and you move your head around, you actually get a bit of spatial effect of this with the stereo of where the sound's coming from, and that can be quite powerful. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's done properly. It's probably just like more of an accident, but that can be a really powerful effect even when it's not done 100%, even though it's not full spatial audio. Another example of that actually, I forgot what it's called. The It's a flight sim. IL Stromovic, Battle for Stalingrad, I think it's called. That has positional sound in it as well, and when you stick your head out of the window, you can hear the wind, or if your canopy gets shot up, and when you turn your head, you can hear the engine sounding as if it's in front of you. It's just a really nice effect. Oh, Assetto Corsa actually does it as well. It just really helps add to the immersion, I think, with VR especially, because it makes you feel like you're actually in a vehicle. And the wind sound as well, I think, is done really well in Project Cars 2. Not when you drive behind another vehicle, you don't particularly hear their noise so good, and the opponent's sounds isn't necessarily the best or as good as in some other games. I find in iRacing and AC it's a lot easier to work out where the opponents are around you just from the audio than it is in Project Cars 2. But the actual wind sounds and the echo of the engine off walls, see that you could hear the echo from the wall there, and that is fantastic in Project Cars 2, and it's a really clear echo sound. It doesn't feel like an artificial echo. You often find with driving games that do reverb, you end up with what sounds like someone's just got a child's toy keyboard and you've just put a reverb effect on it. You're talking into it with a microphone, and it has that really tinny sound to it. But the quality of the sound effects and the sound processing in Project Cars 2 is really good. Almost broke my wrist there. Oh dear. Look at this grass. Not quite as good as the Rocket League grass, but I do like a bit of grass in my games. You probably gathered from my gushing over Richard Burns Rally in previous videos. Hedges and grass and Assetto Corsa top 5 tracks. All of them, strangely, have a lot of hedges and grass on them. I don't know. Maybe it's a weird effect of living in England. You have a weird obsession with lawns. I don't actually have a lawn where I live at the moment, but I do have 4 bloody great big sunflowers that are confusing the hell out of the neighbours. Oh, we got that. Moto. So there you go. I mean, I think I've... oh, come on, let's link this up. Link it up, link it up, link it up on the brake. Oh, no! Full opposite lock. Oh, didn't quite do that smoothly. It was a little bit better than previous attempts. Not exactly smooth. But yeah, we'll get to the end of this lap and we'll wrap things up. But I have to say, main points are Project Cars 2. You can drive over the limit. Doesn't have the stupid tire model issues that Project Cars 1 had, which to me is... That's why I really stopped playing Project Cars 1, and that's why Project Cars 2 in my mind is 10 times the game that Project Cars 1 ever was. Though, I mean, I still appreciate the graphics in Project Cars 1, and there's some aspects of Project Cars 1 I really appreciate. It did do some things really nicely, and I think you have to give SMS credit for their World of Mass Development platform. That was a really good business decision and really well done. Though, I mean, it did fill the world up with very toxic WMD mafia members and weird Project Cars fanboys, which in many ways have actually put a lot of sim racers off of Project Cars 2, and is, it just caused unnecessary arguments. But WMD was a really nice idea, and it's a shame that the Trading Commission didn't allow for the same thing to be possible with Project Cars 2. Bloody British politics in action there. But yeah, Project Cars 2, it's growing on me like a stick of bamboo. It's growing on me reasonably fast, and I'm really eager to see the improved vehicles in the final one, how much more improved they are, and if they do indeed have better brake feel with those vehicles, because that's the one aspect of Project Cars 2 that the niggle for me is the force feedback brake feel. But the rest of it, as you can see from driving this with the cars that are good, amazing. Oh no, the flags. Indeed, the smoke was going in the correct direction to the flags. That's attention to detail for you. We've got some TV screens there. They're probably Slightly Mad Studios employee. Look at that. It's probably a secret on those screens. If only I had a ladder, I could use my VR headset to secretly get up there. But there you go. All I can say, guys, is thanks for watching this. Let me know what you'd like to see. We'll do another talk and drive for Project Cars 2. We've totally we've knackered out the front of the vehicle. Look at that. It was a pristine Caterham and 5-10 laps with Game of Muscle, and it's bollocks. We have to pay the insurance premium to take this out again. Yeah, let me know what you'd like to see in your next videos. Don't forget to subscribe. It makes you 10 times more sexy, but still too ugly to actually be appealing to the opposite sex when you've got a sim rig in your sitting room, so it's basically useless. Until the next one, likey dislikey, goodbye.